Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Thursday afternoon, the Thursday before the Christmas holiday week, Thursday before D3Hoops.com Classic in Las Vegas, of course. But anyway, welcome into Hoopsville, and I'm your host, Dave McHugh, if you didn't know that already. If you got questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Lots of ways to interact with us. We hope you'll take full advantage of them. We are on Instagram at D3Hoopsville as well, though we use that primarily as a promotional tool more than a communication one, because in show, it's a little bit challenging, folks. Let's just be honest. So still lots going on in Division III this week. That's why we got a show today. And we're doing it in the afternoon because we figured, well, you know, you all deserve a little bit of something to distract you. Whether you're still out there shopping at the last minute, whether you're on the roads heading out somewhere for the holidays, or what, where, how, whatever you're doing on this Thursday before the holiday. This is a day that I know from my years of working even in television, I didn't want to be doing anything. Christmas is too close around the corner, and I know not everybody celebrates Christmas, but there's just that feeling in the air. There's a nice big storm outside our doors. I'm disappointed because it's not snow. So it's one of those dreary days here on the East Coast, or at least in the Mid-Atlantic region. So I'm hoping we can entertain you in some way, shape, or form. Again, you can tweet us or email us or do whatever you need to do to interact with us, and we hope you'll take full advantage of that when you can. If you got questions for us, tweet us, as I said, and we hope you'll do that, because why not? Hold on. We lost our system here. Hold on, going back to it. Here we go. Let's see. We're also on Periscope today. We experimented with it on Sunday. It seemed to work, so we're trying it out today, too. If you got questions, send them our way. There we go. Got our chat windows now open appropriately where they need to be open. Stuff going on, so we still want to talk about that stuff. We also want to preview the Classic and whatnot. Yes, let's talk about those. We'll start with women's basketball. Number 25th team in the country, Austin. We've talked a lot about the Texas schools. 4 or 5 of them have at least received top 25 attention, if not been in the top 25. So we'll talk to Austin. The Roos made the top 25 for the first time earlier this season, getting as high as number 19 before falling out. They're back in the poll. We'll talk to them about that. Also talk to Michelle Feilander about what she expects out of the SCAC. A little bit of a down Texas Trinity squad. Doesn't mean they're still not dangerous, though. They're still going to compete for that conference title. But also what's on the other side in the ASC, and if she's willing to look down the road a little bit on what it could mean for the NCAA tournament with so many Texas schools potentially in the mix this year. That's a good and a bad thing, to be honest with you. We'll also talk to Linfield men's basketball coach Shannon Rosenberg. They played Nebraska Wesleyan the other night and played well for the most part. Nebraska Wesleyan ended up winning the game somewhat easily, at least by score, and certainly the last 5 or 10 minutes of that contest. But Linfield led at halftime and were playing pretty darn well early in the second half as well, proving what many of us suspected, that Linfield was going to be pretty solid this year. They're going to give both Wits a run for it in the Northwest Conference. We'll get his take on all that. Plus, we'll see him at the D3Hoops.com Classic along with his team, get his take on that event as well and what they've got lined up for them. We'll also debut something new here. Again, this is a year of trying to do things differently, talk to more student athletes. We'll also talk to conference commissioners throughout the season. Normally, we get a conference commissioner on if they're involved with a committee or a chair of committee. Well, the one we'll talk to today has been in that role and talked to us having been in that role. Steve Ulrich from the Centennial Conference will talk with us and chat. Steve's actually retiring after umpteenth years, basically the only commissioner the Centennial Conference has seen. We'll talk to him about what has changed in Division III, how the Centennial Conference and himself have been influential, especially on basketball's topics and whatnot. We'll also get a take maybe from him on what he thinks the conference will shake out to be this season in men's and women's basketball. Also, Gordon Mann reappears on the program in a pre-tape segment and via phone, so he's not going to be seen. But Gordon will help me break down the first semester. If you remember, on Sunday we had Bob Quillman and Ryan Scott on and do a little bit of a buy and sell, also their takes on the first 6 weeks of the semester, or of the season, the end of the semester. Gordon will do the same. We'll buy and sell with him. We'll also get his take on things. So looking forward to all that coming up here on the show. Hopefully we don't go too far past 4. I think if we time things out, we should be pretty good at about right ending at 4 o'clock. And, of course, if you're watching this on demand or you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much for doing so. Hey, let's look at some of the top 25 action from this week. Again, not a lot, but some interesting notes. First off, top 12, all with games. I don't see anybody idle, at least in the week ahead with the holidays. But nobody's lost as of yet. Plattsburgh lost to Wesley in 84-73. Interesting result there for the Cardinals against the Cardinals. Plattsburgh's 8-2. I think Plattsburgh's a good team here, folks. I really do. I just don't think they're that good. I think they're still trying to figure themselves out. Unfortunately, I also think the SUNYAC may challenge them. I'm not expecting a huge challenge of the SUNYAC. I don't know if Plattsburgh can kind of recreate what they did last year unless they kind of buckle down. And games like Wesleyan are going to be important for them. They've got Case Western Reserve coming up here today. They need that win today for sure. Worcester, for the first time since the Reagan era and first time since Steve Moore's first season at the helm, have lost 3 straight games, including number 4 Whitman 89-78 and Sul Ross State 88-84 so far this week. That was down in Mesa, Arizona at an event Worcester was actually hosting at a community college, I believe. So they've lost 3 straight, because remember, the 2 games here, we got another game prior to that. So they're now 7-3. They get a break for the holidays. They'll take on Ohio Wesleyan on the 29th, then New Jersey City on the 30th, then come back from the new year and we'll take on DePaul on the 5th. In other words, it's not going to get easier here for Worcester. I think they can maybe get past Ohio Wesleyan, but this could be an interesting moment here for Worcester, who was 14th in the poll. I did not vote for them. The rest of the top 25, quiet or idle, those receiving votes. Quiet or idle except for Center, who lost to Augustana handily, 90-64. I have a feeling the previously undefeated Colonels will no longer receive 2 votes after that result. And I don't mean to beat on Center, but this is the proof of not all undefeated seasons or undefeated records are equal. One voter either gave Center his 24th spot, or 2 voters gave him their 25th spot at 9-0, and they got handled by Augustana. There was nothing on Center's resume that told me that they were a top 25 team, and thus I didn't vote for them. Speaking of which, I did finally blog out my ballots. I put all of them out. Preseason weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4, all out on a blog, on a table, to be sure. And then just some thoughts. I didn't dive in too deep. We'll start diving in deeper come January. Let's see here. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Jay Cozen says, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Dave, to you and your family. Well, thank you, Jay. To yours as well. Look forward to being with you guys again from start to finish for the Classic from Vegas. Is Ira joining you and Pat again this year? So, well, we'll look forward to having you as well, Jay, on our broadcast. We'll talk more about the D3Hoops.com Classic here in a bit. I guess we could talk, yeah, we'll talk about it now. Pat and I have to survive day 1. It'll be Pat and I for 5 games on the first day, on the 27th, starting, I believe, at noon local, so 3 o'clock Eastern time. We then have 6 games the following 2 days and a solo game, a one-off, on our final day, the 30th. Ira will join us for days 2 and 3, the 6-game days. He will not be there for day 1. So Pat and I just need to survive the first day. Get through 5 games. I am used to calling 4 games of soccer in one day. Basketball shouldn't be that much more challenging, except there's so much other things that we do. Not only running the video broadcast, we have someone videotaping anyway, but we run the scoreboard and all that stuff on the graphics, commercial breaks, broadcasting, obviously. But we also do a whole host of interviews while we're there. We interview each program, whether it's a coach or a student athlete or both, throughout. And usually we try and do interviews from the very beginning. We're going to have to figure a way to get some of those interviews done on the first day so we aren't basically swamped with twice as much work the next 2 days. It's certainly doable the next 2 days, in my opinion. It's just not ideal. but we'll see what happens. But yeah, tune in. It's the 9th annual D3Hoops.com Classic from Las Vegas at South Point Arena. It is well worth it. We've got a great cast of characters, per se. Wonderful teams. Ohio Northern's bringing both. That's become a little bit more of a fad for some teams. I remember there were a couple of Wisconsin schools that did it. Stevens Point came last year. Women are coming this year. But Ohio Northern's bringing both programs this year. Looking forward to that. Johns Hopkins out there for the very first time. Men's basketball will be the program of question. We'll have Whitworth back, Linfield back. Linfield coming back, not the same program they were there last time. Last time they were there, they were not much of a program. This year, they're a much better program. That's the fun thing that we're going to get to check out, that change, per se, in how that all plays out. Carthage women are returning to the event. Looking forward to seeing them. There's a lot of good teams getting out there, and there's a lot of good teams now more interested in it. Expecting good games, as we always do. We try and make the games as competitive as possible. Amherst will make a return visit from last year as well. They'll take on Westfield State, and they will take on Stevens Point. I don't know what to expect. Westfield State is a system-type team. I don't expect Amherst to have many problems with that, but I'd be fascinated to see what is normally a methodical Amherst team taking on a high-tempo team in the Owls. I'd be interested to see how that plays out. Not expecting an upset there, but I'm curious what Amherst decides to do. And then they got a different style against Shirley Egner and the Pointers the next game. But it's always fun to see GP Gromacki and see what attire. It sounds like they'll be bringing, from our interview with GP earlier in the season, it sounds like they'll be bringing the same shirts they always bring. So, Jay, looking forward to it myself. Thanks for tuning in, sir. Appreciate it greatly. So let us know if you're tuned in and chatting with us. We want to hear from you. Looks like not all of our accounts are connected, but so be it. It is what it is. Let's see here. Women's side of the top 25. All right, we're done. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of teams either idle or playing next week. Randolph-Macon did lose to Wartburg 77-58, then defeated Salisbury 53-42 at a tournament. It looks like maybe they're dealing with Williams, their center, not at 100%. She broke something like a 25-game double-double streak. She had gone 25 straight games with a double-double and did not even get double-digit points or rebounds against Wartburg. And then I don't believe played against Salisbury. I forgot to go back and look for a box score. Initially, box score wasn't available for the Wartburg game. I don't know how many minutes she played. But Randolph-Macon taking their second loss. It's something we'll keep an eye on. They don't play until the other side of the new year. They get into conference play with Washington and Lee and Ferrum in 2 games. Texas-Dallas lost to Hardin-Simmons 67-66. Another one of those. I think Hardin-Simmons is going to be pretty competitive to maybe make 5 or 6 women's teams to keep an eye out for. But Texas-Dallas probably didn't love that result. They'll play again today against McMurray. Then they're off for Christmas. Then they take on Covenant and Barry after Christmas. Then they're off for the new year. And remember, that upcoming Thomas More trip to Texas includes Texas-Dallas and East Texas Baptist. Texas-Dallas will play the Saints on the 5th of January. That's coming up. We'll preview and talk a little bit more about that with Gordon coming up. Those receiving votes, here's the one that stood out to me. Muhlenberg, who, remember, we just had Ron Rohn on the show recently. They took care of Moravian before the poll, and were 9-0. Took on DeSales, and DeSales smoked them, 85-44. So, Muhlenberg did what it's done on offense, which is not score a lot, but then they gave up twice as much as they normally allow to DeSales. It doesn't get any easier for Muhlenberg, though they'll have both holidays off. They get back into the swing of things against 18th-ranked Gettysburg in conference play on January 5th. A lot of time to have to lick your wounds coming off that DeSales win. We'll talk more about that with Gordon Mann coming up as well. And Trinity, Texas, who was 25th on somebody's poll, now 6-3. They lost to Austin, as we mentioned. Austin coming up on the show, 61-52. They then beat Centenary of Louisiana, 77-44. They'll have Hendrix and Louisiana College coming up next week. And then they do conference action against University of Dallas and Texas Lutheran coming up after the new year. So not a ton going on in the top 25, but just enough there to kind of wet our whistle, as it were. Daryl Duncan says, installing flooring in a house and listening to Dave. Does it get any better? Merry Christmas. Well, it would probably be better, Daryl, if you weren't having to put in the flooring. Unless that's your job. If it's your job, then great. You're getting paid and you're doing work before Christmas. That's outstanding. But if it's your own house and you're having to put in flooring while listening to me, I feel bad for you, and one could argue for either one of those cases. So, yeah, some interesting things going on. We got a few games here tonight and even tomorrow night, Thursday and Friday, to at least peek our heads in on. Not a lot, because a lot of teams are pretty much taking it off for the holidays. And then we'll get back into the swing of things as early as the 27th. I don't think there's any games on the 26th, but I honestly haven't looked. But we'll double-check that. By the way, another result that got messaged to me, this one's interesting. Occidental took on Pacific. I think that was last night. It had to have been last night with the timing of this message. I just lose track of time of when games are played. Occidental defeated Pacific 112-40, and Zach Baines for Oxy set a school record with 50 points and 12 rebounds. That's insane, to say the least. But it reminds me, Whitworth put up 143 in their last game. We didn't even mention that one. I apologize because we skipped past it with it not being a loss. But Whitworth, the 9th-ranked team in the country, beat Concordia Chicago 143-95. Whitworth's at the D3Hoops.com Classic, and they've got two good games, Johns Hopkins and then Emory and Henry. Whitworth, Emory, and Henry's that solo game we've got on the 30th. Pat and I are going to have to find some plans. I don't know if Pat's tuning in, but maybe we do the Hoover Dam. It's not that far away. We could maybe drive there on a Sunday and enjoy that for a little bit before heading back for the games. Anyway, Whitworth, that's pretty surprising, 143 school record there. I don't know why they ended up with 143 points, but sometimes it happens. Defeated their opponent by nearly 50, but gave up 95. I mean, there's 100 ways we could dive into that one and talk about whether it made any sense or not. By the way, we didn't talk about this because it didn't get on the air. Back to the women's top 25, and we'll talk a little bit about this with Gordon. Thomas More nearly did do what we predicted, and that was take over the number 1 slot over Bowdoin. They didn't receive as many first-place votes, but what's jumping out at me about that, and it has for a few weeks, we just haven't talked about it, is the fact that Bowdoin clearly is either a number 1 pick for people or they're nowhere close. And who knows where nowhere close is. But they got 14 first-place votes. Thomas More got 9, and yet Thomas More was just 5 points behind Bowdoin for the number 1 slot, which tells you that Bowdoin either has its number 1 votes or no one is voting for him extremely high, maybe 5. St. Thomas, by the way, had the other 2 first-place votes. They finished 3rd. So Thomas More nearly, with beating Hope and dispatching Baldwin Wallace, and have been dominating really good teams, including Chicago, nearly jumped into number 1 in the top 25, despite not having all, basically despite having 5 less first-place votes. They finished 5 points less. A couple of first-place votes go the other way, and this is a different ball game. Now, granted, it's a 1-point difference between 25 and 24, so Bowdoin may be picking up a few more, but what it basically tells me is Bowdoin, either you're number 1 or you're not. You're several slots down. You're not number 2 on many ballots. We'll keep an eye on that. I think that's fascinating that Thomas More, and we'll talk to Gordon later about it, can they take over the number 1 slot? And if they do, can they hold on to it despite not playing? All things that could be interesting. And Daryl says, yes, it's my job. Well, then I really appreciate it that on your job you would take the time to listen to us, Daryl. I appreciate that more than maybe you realize. Again, if you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Our friend Justin Sweeney tuning in. Someday, Sarah, we'll be able to talk about your employer. Tell your man to get on his job there a little bit, shall we? There we go. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into our interviews. We'll start with women's basketball, and we'll start with Michelle Feilander from Austin. Talk to her about her ruse. By the way, one of the best mascots in Division III. Talk to her about the ruse. Talk to her about what else is going on and what they're doing in Austin, and just the landscape of Texas basketball now. Certainly a little bit, both in men's and women's, a little more competitive, a little more noticed. We'll talk to her about all of that. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. From the WBCA NABC studios, we'll be back with more Hoopsville when we return.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships
Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday afternoon special holiday edition as we hope to help you get out of town here on this Thursday before the holidays. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, where Justin Sweeney wished us, and I assume everybody else in Division III land, a happy holidays. We wish it right back to him. Jay Cozen says, your friend Ronk now has a Scranton men's team number 2 behind only Duke. Yeah, no comment. Nathan Dennison turning it on again in Fort Wayne to keep up with the D3 Hoops information. 84 days to the semifinals there. You're right, Nathan, and we're looking forward to being in Fort Wayne coming up. Let's see. There was something else that jumped out at me. Daryl says, Whitworth is forced to play up-tempo last night. He had 47 free throw attempts. Good game to watch. Yeah, I decided to do some holiday stuff with the family instead of watching games. I'm doing my best before they lose me in the months of January and February. All right, so let's talk about a team that's certainly playing well on the women's side. 9-1 the Roos are off to this season after a 20-6 campaign, 13-1 in the SCAC last year. For a couple of years, we've been talking about how Austin was helping change the landscape of the SCAC. Trinity, Texas was now having to deal with them, and now Trinity, Texas has dealt with them as Austin has taken over kind of the mantle, as it were, with a 61-52 win this season on top of the conference for now. Obviously, they play a double round robin. That game will be avenged, as it were. But Austin's in the top 25 for the first time this year, or in program history, and for the second time this year at number 25. And the state of Texas basketball is changing. Figured before we go away for the holidays, we better talk with Austin because there's going to be plenty of Texas teams to talk about this season, and we got to find a way to parse it all out. So joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach of the Roos. It is Michelle Feinlander. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time on this pre-holiday edition.
Well, thank you so much for reaching out, and I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. Again, big win over Texas, Trinity, Texas, and University of Dallas, though the second one far easier. You guys are off to this
Nothing's easy.
Well, touche. Off to a solid start. After you've been ranked already once. You fell out after a loss to Millsaps, but you're back into the rankings. But it's getting very interesting down there in Texas. I think at any other given year, this would stand out more. Maybe it's not this year, but your take on how the season's gone so far in the first 6 weeks?
We've obviously, for us specifically, we're off to I think our best start since I think they said 96, 97, somewhere along those lines, and those were some really, really great teams back in the day. So so obviously from just a pure win-loss standpoint, things really couldn't be going too much better for us, and we're pretty happy with that. But more importantly, I've been really happy with our evolution. I think that we're doing some things early as far as the way that we're coming through some adversity and some struggles as we get into some of these tight games, and we've been really fortunate with the way that our non-conference schedule has worked out, and seeing some of these really good teams down here, and as it's gotten more competitive, been able to manage and navigate our way through what ended up being a really challenging beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you had nothing but basically Texas schools: Hendrix, Texas Dallas, Millsaps Rhodes, Hardin Simmons, Hendrix again, Trinity Texas, and University of Dallas. I know with scheduling and with location, it gets harder and harder to get outside Texas schools. You got to be thrilled with at least getting the recognition, considering you haven't been able to get out of the state.
Yeah, it's been something that we've been craving for a while now, and just kind of been. But it's nice to kind of have that carrot on the stick too, to keep after and keep putting something out there as this is what we're working for. This is what we want to get to. We want, and you do want to eventually have that work noticed, but you've got to have the production to do it. So we've been fortunate that we've been able to be on the good end of a lot of those games, so that we could produce those results to earn a little bit of that recognition. So. And it's like you said, it's hotly competitive down here these days, and so to earn that recognition amongst what are some really, really quality programs this year is, I think, probably even a little bit more satisfying.
We'll talk about the state of the Texas in just a bit, but the schedule, if you may, and maybe looking further ahead and off this season a bit. Is there hopes to diversify a little bit more and try and get out of the state, or at least get opponents to come to you to some degree?
Yeah, I think that there always is. Sometimes it's just a timing issue, too, for me. It seems like every now and then we will get that phone call that says, hey, we're coming in town. We'd like to pick up a game. And then it's just a matter of trying to get things worked out if you can, because, you always try to find 2 games on the road like that. So now you're working with 2 schedules to make sure you have openings. And so it's some of it you get a little lucky, sometimes you don't. And then, we'd like to travel when we can. I think, last year we made that trip to St. Louis. So we try to do something every couple of years. So we work within the parameters that we have, but there's definitely some consistencies that we know we're always going to get. We're always going to get with Memphis. We're always going to get with Jackson. We're always going to try to hit a couple of those ASC schools, and at least diversify within the region, even if we can't in most years nationally.
Sure. I heard there's a great event in Vegas between the holidays. Just saying, if you're looking.
Yeah. I love it.
Every couple of years, there's openings next year. Just saying.
Okay.
Trinity,
hey, talk to my AD.
Okay, sounds good. We can work on that. Send them my way. Considering teams coming into town, Thomas More is coming to Texas. They're playing East Texas Baptist and Mary Hardin Baylor. The way this season has started, are you glad maybe you aren't on their hit list?
I've been on it as an assistant, and it's not a good place to be. It just it was one of those things where I don't even know that we were on the radar with that.
Sure.
Based on when they were coming, and with our conference expanding and changing, we're playing conference games now earlier than we ever have. This was the first time we've ever opened up before Christmas, and we'll continue to do that as we add a 10th team next year. I've lived that life, and it's interesting.
Very interesting this year more than any. You talk about the conference expanding. That was where I was headed next. Johnson & Wales, Colorado, now in the mix. I don't think they're yet fully a vested member of D3 yet, but they're a fully vested member of the SCAC for the most part. You mentioned the 10th one coming along. It's interesting. And I don't remember if you can remember, SCAC, not so long ago was on the verge of going in the wrong direction, having lost members. And, of course, they've lost their football side of things. Now they're kind of growing again. Obviously, it's good. It gets you games. It gets you in conference, though there's a bit more travel involved. How do you kind of weigh it all now with what is a growing SCAC conference?
It's good. The conference expanding to 10 teams. 10 teams is kind of a nice little sweet spot for us because of that 18 then conference schedule that's done and in the books, and so it makes it a bit easier when we go about finding that non-conference schedule, and we can get a little bit more, I think, creative with it now that you've got your 18. But as far as the travel is concerned, I mean, that's always just been part of it. So you're just exchanging one 4 or 5 hour trip for another one. And so it's funny that Thomas More trip back when I was in the President's Athletic Conference, it used to be the one where you're like, oh, we're going down overnight. It's 4 hours. And then with the transition down here to this Texas League and the SCAC, a 4 hour trip now is an easy day trip for us. We're like, yeah, it's only 4 hours. It's going to be a quick one. So
we don't have to pack a meal this time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that we're very, very used to, and it's just the way we do things down here.
Let's talk about why your team's so good so far this season. Led by 2 seniors out of a group of 4, at least on the statistics sheet. You've started the same 5 every single game and played, looks like 8 players consistently in every game. And it starts with Bryce Frank, no surprise. The senior leading the team at 18 points a game. She's got 10 rebounds a game on top of that for the double-double, 1.5 assists, over a block a game, 2 assists a game. And then Ann Savage in there as well, 11.5 points a game herself. Casey West, the sophomore, at 11.5 points herself. But it's that duo of Frank and Savage that I've noticed the Roos have kind of been leaning on for the last few years and currently continue to.
Yeah, Bryce and Ann carry the consistency load for us. You pretty much know, going into a game from a production standpoint what you're going to get out of them. It's not often that we don't see something coming from those two positions, and it creates a nice balance, with the perimeter and our post game. But it's confidence inspiring to know that you are going to get a certain level of consistency, and then allow our younger players to kind of fill in the gaps and find themselves and keep working to assert themselves in their roles and find the ways that they're going to score and that they're going to affect the game defensively or whatever the case may be. So it's I think them being the consistent players that they are for the most part is really what's driving even our evolution as a whole team. Sure. And even in their consistency, they it's quite astonishing to watch because they allow for everyone to develop around them. It's not so rigid in the way that they approach the game that it doesn't allow for growth around them. And I think that's the biggest thing about both of them in their games is how they allow the other players around them to assert themselves at times and to get better and to change us and do things a little bit differently that I think at the end of the day hopefully will make us get us to where we want to be ultimately.
Savage also leads the team in assists per game, almost 5 a game, and has a ridiculous assist-to-turnover ratio of 4.5 to 1. In other words, she's not giving up the ball. But that's what you need in a player like her.
Yeah, Ann Savage, I joke all the time that Ann, I get to coach, it's like coaching a 30-year-old out on the floor. If it's probably the closest I'm ever going to get to kind of a professional kind of situation, just in her maturity. She's such a sophisticated player, in the way that she approaches the game mentally. She has such a high level of maturity, such a high level of mental toughness about her, that she spoils me rotten, so she's quite something. Especially she hasn't even gotten to 100 turnovers in her career yet.
Oh my Lord! Really, as a senior?
Yeah. That's
insane. As the ball handler.
Yeah, I might be letting the cat out of the bag, but she's still got one more year to give us.
Oh my Lord!
Because she missed her freshman year with an injury.
Yeah.
So
wow.
So that's in about 2.5 years really of basketball.
That's pretty impressive. I do want to ask you about depth though, because we mentioned you start the top 5, your same 5. Frank Savage. We should also mention Walling Collins and Longager, 2 sophomores and a senior in Collins. You also play consistently 3 more players for sure. You get 2 more in there sometimes, so 3 to 5 may come off the bench on most nights. But that's about it. After that, it's a steep drop-off on who you play. And you've had some games that have been well in hand. Is depth a concern, especially as this season drags on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that our rotation is even probably a bit more expanded than most you see. You know, and I spend a lot of time poring over that. You know, looking at who are the top teams in the country and what are their rotations and how many kids are they playing and what does that look like? And I'm always interested to see how other programs, particularly other programs that are achieving at high levels, are getting things done. And I think it's just a philosophical thing from program to program. But I'm happy when we can get to 10. I'm very happy when we can get to 10. So I don't worry. And we have a lot of versatility, too, in the way that we can exchange players and positions. And that's something that we're evolving on, too. We're starting to find ways to even to get Allie Longacre in the post a little bit more and give Bryce some time to get on the bench and get some water and get off her legs for a little bit. So
good.
We're expanding out a little bit more even, and that's kind of exciting for us to see that happen as we go. So no, it's not something that that concerns me. I think that our bench still has more to give. I think it's exciting to be able to bring double figures off the bench, and also know that we're really close to having 4 perimeter players average in double figures.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Is you got 3 players in double figures. You got 2 more at 7 and plus 8 points a game. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to knock the depth. I was just curious about it because usually I see it is you got a core group that play in nearly every game. Then you got a handful who play in, let's say, half to 3 quarters, and then you got that group that just gets in to pick up scrub time. You don't have that middle one. You've got that core group of about 8 to 10 players who play in nearly every game, and then there's the scrub group that plays 1 or 2 games. There's no middle ground there. That's what jumped out at me when looking at it, and especially minutes-wise as well. What is the goal now? You've got a game against Mary Hardin-Baylor, nationally ranked as well. That's going to be huge coming up next week. You then dive into conference play. How do you manage things? How do you keep people fresh? And especially going into that Mary Hardin game, how do you get everybody to shake off the Christmas rust?
Yeah. Well, again, I think that's what that's where I get I derive a lot of confidence from the team when we go into these Christmas breaks now, bringing back the experience and the upperclassmen. They've been through Christmas breaks before. We've had big games right after Christmas before, and so I don't often worry about what they're often doing. So I know that when we get back, we'll refocus and they'll use their time, to get healthy, to get fresh, to relax a little bit, but also go out and hope, if they're listening to me, doing a little cardio and staying in shape, doing what they got to do, and I don't worry too much about that. And then when we get back, just getting back after it and looking forward to hopefully what is going to be a great game with Mary Hardin-Baylor. They've obviously done some really impressive things so far this year, and we're excited to get down there and lay it out there and see what happens. But then more importantly, I think, just getting into that conference play. We've been waiting for a while now to dig back into conference. And I know that's what's motivating this group. And then once we do that, it's really about putting the blinders on.
Sure.
And getting very micro-focused on one game at a time, one moment at a time, what's just in front of our face. And staying, and that's been a theme for us this year, is staying very focused in the moment, being very intentional in the moment, and thinking only in terms of moment to moment. Not that we don't have goals and not that we don't have plans, but as it comes to fulfilling those, and then it does become about being incredibly fixated on the process and the moment at hand.
By the way, Coach, I think you've run out of room title-wise. They might need to create some more space. Head women's basketball coach, senior women's administrator, assistant athletics director. Anything else we're forgetting? Floor mopper, laundry person?
Mother of an 8-month-old
there we
keeping
go.
me up all night.
How are you balancing that? I mean, it's hard enough for us regular non-coach folk to deal with children, especially 8-month-olds. How are you dealing with it in the middle of the season?
I have a great support system. So it's two different things. It's a support system just from a family perspective. My husband is a coach here as well, so he gets it. He understands the life. We juggle things quite crazy at times. Some family, down in the Texas area helping us out this year has been huge. But our Austin College family too, from our athletic director to our president's wife is a volunteer assistant for my husband. So we pitch in all over the place, and so we're very fortunate and grateful to be in a family oriented environment here. And my little girl can sit on the bench, and we just kind of do what we got to do to make it all work.
I can't wait for the timeout to be called because she's on the bench and it starts crying. Hey, I need to take care of this. Hold on. and then everybody come over to check it out.
Yeah, we had to have a conversation. If you've never had a conversation with a 6-year-old about bench decorum, you should.
I've had one about table decorum. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, and I have to keep reminding them that they can't bother daddy whenever they want to bother daddy.
Yeah, we've done bench decorum that when you're on the bench, you're on the team, and I'm not mama, I'm coach.
Yeah, we've had the same. Different roles. Professor Briggs, when he saw you were on the show, said, very happy for Michelle. I've known her long time as her coaching career in the Pac. Started in the same way my SID tenure began. Good to see hardworking people reap rewards. So that's a shout out from Twitter to you.
That's kind.
And Coach, I appreciate you taking that time, especially this holiday, and thank the kids for letting us have your time as well. We always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those tuning in?
I want to say, thanks to you and to all you do at D3 Hoops. Just for us, programmatically across the country, we're so thankful to have an outlet and to have somebody shining the spotlight on these student athletes. They are the purest of the pure in so many ways, and I think what these kids do is, and what they can commit to, particularly the ones that commit to 4-year experiences and that are willing to put the work in and do the things necessary to make their team successful and to have successful, really balanced Division III experiences. I can't say enough about it, and to have an opportunity to talk about it where people can hear and listen, it's so important. I mean, it's just what we're doing, and it's why we all do it, and why we're so committed to it is the student athlete and what they get to experience and what they go on to become.
Well, you nailed it on the head there. Why do we do it? It's because of the student athletes. So perfectly said. Coach, thank you so much. Happy holidays, safe travels, wherever you're going. Good luck as the season gets back up and running, and we'll look forward to talking about the Roos and talking to you somewhere down the road.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Michelle Feilander joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate her taking the time. Again, the Roos are 9-1. Get a little bit of a break here, 10 days between games, though they're obviously just getting early off on that. Mary Hardin-Baylor up on the 29th in non-conference play. Of course, nationally ranked Mary Hardin-Baylor. That will be a great one. Tune into that one if you're not watching the D3Hoops.com Classic. Then back into conference play with Johnson and Wales, which technically is and isn't a conference game, whatever. And then Colorado College on the 5th. So watch out for the Roos. Be fun to watch them the rest of the way. When we come back, we'll continue the women's basketball theme. Gordon Mann joins us in a pre-taped interview, talk about what he's seen in the first 6 weeks, and to discuss who he would buy and sell of a collection of women's basketball teams that we throw his way. And yeah, you can probably guess this as we're halfway through the show. It looks like our Wirecast has once again failed us. We're not doing anything different. We literally have a program that doesn't like us. Hopefully by the time we're back on the air in January, we will have replaced this program. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get you that Gordon Mann interview. I promise. This also means the streams are going to have to restart, folks. I apologize. We'll do our best to get back up and running as soon as we can. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.